Okay, so we are resuming our afternoon board meeting, North Carolina Board of PT Examiners. We are resuming our afternoon session with the North Carolina Board of PT Examiners, September 22nd, 2021. We were a little delayed in getting back started because there are a couple of board members who have some connectivity issues, but we do have a quorum. So we are going to resume, if you are following along on the agenda, letter L, which is the report from the Deputy Director, and we will come back to the financials when our auditor joins us at 1:30. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Deputy Director for her report.
Well, thank you. You have in your agenda, you have the paper Deputy Director report. I would like to touch on a couple of items. One is the school outreach. We've been doing the alternate approval pathway for a year now. We appreciate the board's patience. We appreciate the school's patience as we have been participating in this for now over a year. Still really glad that we have participated in this. And we have just sent out communications to the North Carolina PT and PTA schools that beginning with the cohort that takes the exam in January, we are moving to just transcripts, official transcripts from the school instead of the certification of education form. We have found over the past year that, or even in past times, that this certification of education form can be confusing. Sometimes we're questioning, can we see the seal? Can we validate who filled out the form? So we had a long discussion, including the board attorney, to determine whether just moving to official transcripts, one, is the best interest of public protection, and two, really truly shows what the degree is, when the degree was conferred, and it's an official document. So we are letting the schools know, and we're also going to reach out to out-of-state schools to let them know that this is what we're moving toward, and we'll work with each one of them on an individual basis to be sure that that transition is as smooth as possible. I do believe that over time it is cleaner. We know it's official. We still can accept it electronically. We still can accept it in bulk. But again, that will be the official determinant for when the degree is conferred and what the education degree was. So we're pleased with that. So that's the learning curve that's taking place this fall. Again, if anybody has any ideas or interest for the newsletter, obviously many things that were on the agenda today will also merge over to the newsletter. But we are, we've got our outline. We're going to work with the same lady we worked with last year, and Kim, again in the office, was just wonderful working with the consultant that we worked with. So don't hesitate to send ideas if you have additional ideas that you would like for us to pursue. Regarding customer service, we have continued with COVID to look at the satisfaction surveys that we are sent from the Prometric surveys as far as satisfaction goes, and trying to determine, one, where the numbers came from, so that we can be sure we have accurate percentages. We did find out that the Prometric survey, of which one portion of it is the satisfaction for the application process in your state, that this survey is taken when the applicant finishes taking the NPTE. So that in itself, after a 4 or 5 hour test, we do believe at a Prometric center may not be the most optimal time to decide how you felt about your entire process over the past application time frame. We sent out we sent a survey out to those people that had not said satisfied or extremely satisfied, and only got back a couple of responses again, unrelated to the application process, more related to something that took place at Prometric, the temperature wasn't right, but not directly related to the North Carolina Board of Physical Therapy Examiners application process. So now we are in the beginning stages of thinking that we may identify a PT school and a PTA school of a graduating cohort that we can go ahead and let them know that we would like for them to participate voluntarily to participate in a survey, both, that we will identify them and then we will follow up with them to see what they found positive and what they did not find positive about their application process, and that to let them know that we want their input, we value their input. So we are considering which schools we would reach out to, and again, what the survey would look like, and the optimal times to send it out. But this way we could get data in real time from especially North Carolina applicants on any ways that we can improve our communication, more upload features, how can we streamline. So we're excited about having that as an up and coming customer satisfaction project. Would you like me to go to the rules?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Rules Committee is working concurrently with the Public Protection Task Force as they work toward rulemaking. Then we're establishing the rules that need to go to the RRC through their process. We were successful in completing the temporary rules that we had last year are now permanent rules. So the Rules Review Commission did not have any issues with it, and those temporary rules went into effect August the 1st of 2021. We then identified after our first Rules Committee meeting, that there were 3 rules that required technical changes. 2 were grammatical, and 1 was a lettering system in the rule. The Ashley Snyder from the Office of Administrating Hearings, she approved 2 of the rules. 1 was a grammatical change as well as the second one, but she did not. She was not willing to change the lettering on the rule, which is 48G.0203, lapse licenses, because she said it potentially could change the intent of the rule. So that lettering system will go back to the Rules Committee and will then follow into the timeline for permanent rulemaking. We have an upcoming Rules Committee meeting right after the Public Protection Task Force, of which, if the Public Protection Task Force is ready to move forward with rulemaking, then that will be our charge to come up with that directly after that meeting. The proposed timeline for, we already have 6 rules that the Rules Review Committee has already said move forward with. For example, one of them would be making in the continuing competence, no longer having 25 out of 30 minutes to qualify for 0.5 contact hours and 50 out of 60. Just make it clear it's 30 and 60 minutes. So some of the rules are clarification, and we are already preparing those to submit. We will be bringing to the board meeting December the 1st a set of rules to start the permanent rulemaking process, so that we can, the board can vote to publish the proposed permanent rules. So you will be able to see and review those after we have the meeting next week, and if we need another one, potentially another meeting before we bring the proposed permanent rules for the board to vote to publish them and start the process. Any questions?
No, thank you for all the tedious work to get all this figured out and to do the timeline to make sure we are being compliant, Debbie. I think we all got the survey to respond to the newsletter items. And we've talked about customer satisfaction survey. Any other questions for Debbie? Hearing none, we'll move on. Let's see, board technology and committee update. Is that going to be David Knoll? We're on number N.
Kathy.
David.
I believe Greg has submitted a document that you all could review. And I think it's just a very simple progress report. And so he's mentioned the website, ransomware, that we've mentioned before. Those are increased security measures. And I don't know that David was prepared to provide a report. That's the only reason why I'm jumping in here.
That's okay. We have it in front of us. Does anybody have any question about the IT report? I think we're all excited about the updates on the website and how that will look. Let's move on to correspondence with schools and annual school score report. Kathy, letter O.
So you have attached to the agenda the score reports for the last quarter. And does anybody have any questions related to those score reports? You know, I've noticed some of the schools so far with 2021, their percentage first-time pass rate is down a little bit. But then one of them jumps way up with the ultimate pass rate, and the other one is hovering around 74%-ish. You know, North Carolina's overall average for PTA schools is above the national average, as is the PT schools currently in 2021. And, you know, I don't feel like we have any specific recommendations, or I have any recommendations to make that we communicate with any school in particular. Some of these schools we've communicated with before. But unless you would like to direct me to communicate, I would be glad to do that. Okay, hearing none, we've provided an updated school address and contact list, and that's in there. If anybody is aware of any changes, please feel free to let us know. Send me an email, speak up now, whatever. I think, you know, we did experience a significant transition. There were about 40% of these schools had changes from in the prior 6 months. So that was significant. We've already talked about the 2022 FSBPT exam testing windows, and I've provided that in the link here. You know, they're just providing some additional dates. You know, and I think it remains to be seen whether we're still going to be experiencing these same kinds of COVID situations that we are now. But I think it's nice that FSBPT is going to continue with that. Under school communications, I wanted to acknowledge Debbie. And we sort of did this as a team effort, and our communications with Amy Gross McMillan of ECU, the program director there, that was over a several day period, and that was rather intense when 5 of their students showed up at the testing site and there was nobody there. And so that was quite distressing to them. So, you know, on top of all of this discussion about students being very anxious, then, you know, the testing center, you know, didn't communicate thoroughly enough. And we had a lot of communications with FSBPT and Christine Sousa, who is outstanding in her timely communications and handling the situation. And while I think, the program is also concerned because they need to have their students taking the test so that they can get them graduated and licensed. But Christine did communicate with each student individually, who she said that they were very appreciative of that. So I think while, that was a stressful time, I think that resulted in a good outcome for everybody looking backward. And then Debbie had a question regarding that permitted practice rule that we refer back to frequently from Lance Mabry, faculty at High Point. And then Debbie just mentioned this program director letter that was being sent out. And I think, in terms of circling back around to my questions about the executive director's goals, it's been on my radar for a long time, and we want to have more communication with the school directors. But I also think now that the board is going to be making decisions about advanced techniques, that we can use that as another opportunity to reach out and communicate with the schools. But she's just finished doing that 1 year AAP retrospective and helping everybody remain current with the processes that the school need to do. So we're doing a better job with that.
Okay.
Yeah, Prometric, are we ready for that? Okay.
Yep.
Well, Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
why did they show up and the centers were closed?
Well, really interesting. The answer is we don't know, but it was one specific center in Greenville. And apparently there were other professions slated to take that exam or their exams that day too. And they were not open. And so I don't know that we ever heard the final word on it, but that was kind of a bad on that individual test site. Prometric. So when you look at the, I have posted 2 different candidate customer satisfaction surveys, because what was originally prompting that customer satisfaction survey that we sent out from the board office was my perception that these numbers didn't look as high as they used to. And so, I think we can explain a certain amount of that, but to have very specific information from the candidates themselves that weren't happy would be really useful in whatever information we could get. So I reached out to Christine Sousa and said, can you tell me about this? And she looked back and she said, oh, well, one of them they were calculated wrong. And so, okay. So she sent a new report, which I can't tell you that I understand or gained any more information by her providing the updated report. It was very nice of her to take a look at it and determine that something about it wasn't right. But this is sort of where our in my mind, the question of, so what services would someone like to see? What don't they feel like they're getting? And of the very few responses that we did get, a couple of things just don't have anything to do with our board. And to Debbie's point, at the point in time which you're being asked to take this survey, you're stressed, you could be upset over anything at that point in time. So following up with a more proactive survey may be useful, may get us a little more information, but we are continuing to streamline processes at our board. And, with the advent pretty soon of our new website, I think that's going to help with that, or I hope that it does to some degree. Does anybody have any comments about the students, feedback about the particular test centers? That really doesn't, really have anything to do with us per se, but.
Let's go on to Ethics Commission.
For today, these are reminders for you. every board member is required every 2 years to do their ethics training. And so when it comes your time to do your ethics training every 2 years, we provided this link. So just go back to click on the link here, and it takes you directly to the instructions for education. Do that, and then it's just helpful to us to provide the certificate so we know that it was done, especially if we have a question from the Ethics Commission. Secondly, this is just a reminder that every board member is required to have submitted their SEI, Statement of Economic Interest, every year by April 15th. So you kind of think of it in the same vein as tax day. And again, the instructions are at this link here. Please take a moment, if you have not already, and open the compliance report and just make a note of when you are next required to do your ethics training. Yeah, I was gonna say, sorry, Crystal, you're on the hook this time.
It actually came up as a notification on my calendar last
Yay.
week. I was like, okay, so I have it on my schedule for one of my days next week to get it done.
Good.
I put it in my calendar last time when it was going to be due, and I put it in to alert me like 1 month prior.
And it
I
worked.
was like, oh, it did. It's great.
Yes, so I would recommend doing exactly what Crystal did. Everybody else is 2022. I think looks like Leslie may be the next up for doing.
Actually, hers is
It's how I
2023.
it's how I celebrate
Oh,
my
you
new-
2023? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You're 2023.
I celebrate New Year's by doing mine.
You stay up till midnight and then you do your SEI, you do your ethics training. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so everybody else looks like 2022, and we've got a couple in 2023. So just take a moment and add that to your calendar reminders, please. And that covers that item.
Okay. Well, then let's go to licensure compact.
Okay, so every year, just like the PT board, the Compact Commission reviews its rules, bylaws, and policies and procedures. And they are requesting feedback on the recommendations made by that committee this year. That was sent in a blastcast. It's posted on the website, and it's posted right here. We have already made a few comments that were considered by the committee. So if you personally have some feedback you want to give to the PT Compact Commission, the instructions are on the website or here if you'd like to do that. They are required by law to be posted. The rule proposals are required to be posted on every website of every board that is a member of the compact. So that's why we noted on the board's website. The other things can be done internally. So the PT Compact Commission has been undertaking a review of its growth strategy. And that is important because the commission now operates using funds that were loaned to it and that may need to be paid back. And so as a result, having strong compact privilege purchases and increased numbers of states joining the compact is important for the viability of the PT Compact. And certainly for those of us who are already participating and have been for a couple of years, when we look at the numbers of privilege holders that we have in our state, and certainly through the pandemic, maintaining that would be one important way of helping people move around the United States more easily. Certainly for military members and for other reasons. So one of the questions in the survey that I'm just looking kind of for a feeling or a straw poll from our board is, if the Compact Commission were to set an annual jurisdiction fee or member state fee, what amount would we be willing to pay as an annual fee? And I'm just going to say that the nursing board, I believe, pays $5,000 as part of their annual fee to be a part of their compact. That said, they have 140,000, members or licensees or registrants or certificate holders with the nursing board. So that number may be a little bit high for here. But if I posed this question, would the board be willing to pay $2,000 as a member state fee to the Compact Commission annually as part of the, administrative costs of participating in the compact? What would the response be? And I guess I'd be interested in a show of hands about whether that would be yes or no. So, and the reason why I'm trying to do that is that feedback back to the commission about whether a state is absolutely adamantly opposed to paying any kind of fee would be important to the commission.
So we are currently paying nothing.
Correct. Mhm.
And what is it that we would be getting in exchange for that fee? Because we're already charging the licensees a fee to get that compact privilege.
That's right. Really, it is to sustain the administration of the PT Compact and Commission. They operate an office just like we do. So far, because those offices are located within the space of FSBPT, FSBPT has written off all of those expenses. So the commission's not paying for the actual space and like phone service and copier and all that stuff that a board needs to exist. They've written it off. And, I can't tell you how appreciative I am to the FSBPT for being willing to subsidize that. But on the other hand, this is a separate governmental entity and needs to become self-sustaining in its own right. And I think what's happened is that initially there was this huge straight up trajectory when there were fewer states, and now it's leveling off some, but that doesn't get us to the point of being able to pay back a loan. And so the FSBPT was the entity that loaned the money, and we may have to go get a loan to pay back a loan. So I don't know that that's exactly how they'll go, but maybe instead of having a straw poll on an amount, it might just be helpful for me to hear feedback so I could take that back.
And how many states are participating in Compact right now?
Well, the answer to that question is there are 34 member states, but only 23 are issuing privileges. And every single one of them charges a different amount. I don't know that anybody charges zero anymore, but some states charge as much as they would charge their normal licensure fee, which initially that was maybe not the goal, only because they're paying that application fee plus the commission fee of $45. And so then it becomes almost more expensive to get a privilege. And so why would you do that as opposed to just getting a license? And it just has to do with the ease of being able to get the privilege.
But Kathy, we could add it to the cost that we charge.
We could. So part of this also, I pulled this question out because this has an effect on our board. The survey has a whole slew of questions that are being asked of the people that it was sent to fill it out to see what their thought is. Are you willing to pay more for a privilege, or why not, and other feedback like that. And the results are not in yet. So I'm just bringing it up because this is the board meeting before they get the survey results, and I could add to the feedback that the commission gets.
I'm not opposed to paying a jurisdictional member fee. But I would be opposed if that comes out of our total budget, and not reimbursed by the people we're issuing compact privileges to.
Okay.
I'm pretty much on the same page as Teresa as far as my thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think it seems reasonable to pay a fee.
If we're gonna participate, then we need to support it.
Thanks.
I concur.
I think North Carolina the medical board has their compact in the legislature right now, although I don't think it moved along during this session, but may be able to come back next time. So more and more professions are considering it as legislatures are thinking about universal licensure. So more states are moving towards compacts for their occupation or healthcare occupations. Okay, the annual meeting is being held October 24th, 2021, from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. Last year, I think the meeting went from 3 to 5. I think we expected to do about the same this year. So anybody's welcome to tune in. I don't have the full participation links or anything. If you'd like to join, just send me an email and I can send it to you before that meeting happens. But during the annual meeting, there are elections for offices. And I was considering putting my name in for the chair position again, but said that I needed to run that by our board, and for a couple of reasons. One is that means you would like me to remain the delegate. And if someone else is dying to be the delegate, or we needed to change that, if the board wanted to alter that, then I would not run. And if you are good with me remaining the delegate now, are you willing to support me being the compact commission chair or running for that office?
Definitely
I
support you.
wholeheartedly- Go ahead.
So I definitely support your engagement in whatever level you figure is the best for you professionally and personally.
Thank you, Leslie.
I concur.
Okay.
Hey, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I told TJ that I would run for one more term, and it's 2 years, and that means that I'm promising I'm not going to retire until that term's over.
Oh, good. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll see. I might lose. If I lose, all bets are off.
In that case, you serve as many years as you like.
All right. Thank you for that. And then I don't know if any of you have looked at these PT compact compliance reports. They're terrible. They're absolutely impossible to read, and they're sideways, but I wanted
Right.
to provide them to you just to let you know we are compliant. So once again, it's kind of tied to the ELDD, but we have additional things in the compact commission that we have to provide. And so, but we are compliant. So just feel good knowing that, even if you can't read that report. And then I tried to provide just information that on the growth survey, and this was a draft. And, these are the questions that were being asked, or some of them are just announcing it. So I just wanted to keep you apprised of what's going on with the commission. All right, so that's that report. Shall we move on to board appointments?
please.
Okay. We do not have any information from the governor's office about appointments for this year yet. The balloting was conducted by APTANC, and when that happened, we did receive an email that I thought was interesting for the board members to see. And if I scroll down to the bottom, let me read it. There was a person expressing concern over one of the candidates, but the response from the board is, we don't have jurisdiction over it. We're not running that process. And so it's a procedure of the governor's office of boards and commissions. And if they would like to, they should communicate with them. But I thought that was interesting because I had not seen that kind of thing before.
And I thought your response was good to, treat this appropriately and cite the Practice Act reference, and then give contact information for this person to contact APTANC.
Thank you. And for that, you can thank David Gadd. Thank you,
David Gadd.
Yeah.
It's team effort around here.
Your
Yes,
reports
yes.
to the state.
I'm sorry, Jamie, did you have a question?
Yeah, doesn't it make you wonder if this person's behavior is so egregious, why it hasn't been flagged or reported in any way?
Yes.
Well, yeah. And so when you get things like that, it's, just like the scope of practice questions, they're out of context for us. And so, thus the information was provided for about where that could be taken up. Yeah, so reports to the state. We have a lot listed here, and we may have mentioned it at the last board meeting, but kudos to Debbie Reagan and Kim Jackson particularly, but I'm sure there were probably other people who collaborate on that, maybe David Gadd, and certainly some of the people at the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. But that audit, we did complete that audit successfully. And so, we've been receiving fingerprints and CHRI for about 3 years now. And so it was inevitable that this was going to come up. And so Debbie can take a deep breath now and blow out sigh of relief. Good job. Excellent job done. And I think the person who sent out the audit or this audit also referred somebody else to Debbie as an example for helping them with theirs. So maybe 1 or 2 people have reached out there. So these are just a listing. If anybody has any specific questions, I can provide you with detailed information about these reports. Does anybody have any questions before we move on?
No.
Very good. We typically wait until the December meeting to do election of officers and the FSBPT delegates. And so we don't have any to do at this meeting. The Federation, the upcoming meetings are the Council of Board Administrators and Delegate Assembly. The Council of Board Administrators is typically a board administrator, and other administrative people within the office can go to that meeting. So there will be several of us attending that. And then the Delegate Assembly is the delegate and alternate delegate, and that's going to be held on October 23rd. And I believe Teresa's the delegate, and Leslie was willing to serve as alternate delegate in case Teresa cannot fulfill her duties. And maybe just give me a thumbs up. Did both of you receive the email that just came out the other day about the meeting? Because Leslie, if you didn't, we need to follow up on that for you.
It
It was yesterday.
may have gone into one of my folders, and so I would have to go back and check. I'll confirm
Okay.
after the meeting.
Okay. But after this, I'll check on that. And we'll get back to you. Or if you don't see it, why don't you let me know? And I'll see who it was sent out by, and we can ask them to send it to you. I have to say, I haven't looked at the agenda yet for specific changes or anything that the board would need to address. Teresa, I don't know if you have either had an opportunity to look at that email and the agenda, and were there any bylaws or anything that needed to yeah, we just got it yesterday. So
Yeah. I
if
don't
there's
know.
an emergency, we'll have to do something in between meetings, but to my knowledge, there's nothing that's unusual in it. If you'd like to go back and review any of the FSBPT publications, they're at this link, the news briefs in particular. That's in your agenda. And I did put in the final report from the LIFE meeting, and Teresa and I both attended that meeting. That was virtual, and lots of good topics, just something to skim through. I think it's very useful, and you may find something that would be very useful in your organization, because it's not just, applicable to regulators. It's got applicability all in lots of organizations. We've already reviewed the ELDD. I didn't realize I had that one there too. So we're compliant with the ELDD. Crystal is the chair of the resolutions committee. And I think, are you meeting at all this year?
So we've done a couple virtual meetings, and I think they should be sending out the schedule. We've set up, I think, 2 different times for resolutions committee meetings, if any members want to meet with the resolutions committee. So they can respond by a certain date. And then last year we didn't have any responses to the virtual meeting schedule, so they canceled them, and it'll be the same way this year. If we don't have anybody that wants to meet with us, we will cancel them. In fact, Jeff Rosa just sent me the PowerPoint today to the review for the meeting, so I'll be presenting the resolutions committee recommendations at the
Very
meeting.
good. Very good. Hope that goes well.
Yeah.
Debbie Reagan it has been serving on the ELDD task force. And Debbie, do you have anything you might want to update the board on?
The task force is trying to, the goal is to make the ELDD meaningful, pertinent information that flows both to and from the FSBPT in a timely manner, especially with regard to discipline. They presented at one of the meetings this summer, and they're doing a really good job in trying to use stories to say if someone had impending discipline in one jurisdiction and tried to get a license in another one, that this communication of information back and forth does have relevance for public protection. They're getting rid of the STAR system. We have not decided on a name change yet, but they are going to change the name, but are continuing to work to see how we can overcome barriers from some states who say, no, they can't participate. They don't have enough time. They don't have enough staff. They're an umbrella board and they won't let them do it. So we're trying to figure out how we can overcome the barriers to increase the participation, because that is public protection. Okay.
Thank you. FSBPT approached us about participating in an API pilot project where they would do some automated downloading into our system of information from the ELDD, and we would upload to them. We just had a informational session, but have not heard anything else back. I think they're still investigating other states with different type of board structures to see whether anybody else would be willing to do it. So that's just an FYI for the board. And then the FSBPT 2021 webinar series continues every other week. You can do continuing ed if you'd like. Great topics, really well done. And if you go to the log into the member portion of FSBPT, I think there's a link there for getting to the webinar series. And then you've got to go to another app kind of to sign up. But those have been really useful, and they're recording every one of them. So you can go back and listen at any time if there's a topic of relevance, and there have been quite a few.
I've done many of them, several of them,
Mhm.
and they've all been really good in the breadth of the variety of things. I mean, and this evening is the storytelling one.
Mhm.
And so, but anyway, it's been really neat, the variety and the different speakers, and so it's been a good use of time.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Kind of mind blowing, like you said, the breadth of topics and, the activities that they're doing. Very, very robust. APTA NC. I've given you a link to their newsletters. Their fall conference is going to be held in person in Winston-Salem. And Jamie Miner is going to attend, and I'm going to be attending. And there are 2 courses on imaging that are being taught, and I plan on attending those and going to the business meeting. So if anybody's interested in going to that, that's available to you. I'm sure they'll even take well, I don't know this, but I would imagine that they would take a registration on site, or you may want to contact them directly if
will.
you're interested. Okay.
Yeah, they always do registration on site as well.
Okay.
This will be the first time I'm not going to the conference in a while.
My goodness.
I know.
That's a change.
Yes, it is. It conflicted with a scheduled weekend out of town.
Yeah.
One of my 3 in a row camping weekends there.
You got to get used out of that camper.
Yes, very much so.
So, and while we talked last time that it's APTA's 100th year, it's APTA NC's 75th anniversary, which is very significant.
Very good, yeah.
It's something to be marked. I think our state's always been a very active state in APTA as a chapter, and had lots of representation at the national level, including a couple of presidents of APTA. So
Yeah.
so that's something to acknowledge. Then as far as other regulatory organizations go, CLEAR has really made their educational and webinar offerings robust as well. That provides you with kind of a little bit different flavor maybe than FSBPT, but similar type of training. And so, we are members, and if you go to their website, you may find some offerings that you'd like to attend, and the board can sponsor people to attend those if they come with a fee. We do not have any credentialing agency updates at this time. And then looking at correspondence to the ED, I tried to pick ones that either we haven't addressed before, or you haven't maybe seen some of these answers before. Here's the firsthand patient knowledge question. PT-INR, we've answered that before. But then very recently, I got this question about, is the Hoyer lift a skilled PT service? And, again, when you get that one sentence, the context to that question is kind of lost. And my answer is, it's in the PT scope of practice. The board doesn't define things as skilled or not skilled. That's kind of a reimbursement construct. And, you need to seek the definition directly from the payer or the regulatory entity that's maybe asking that of you, if you're trying to figure out who should provide the service or how you bill it or code it. So that was kind of interesting. And then this is sort of a takeoff on the vaccinations. Can PTs provide nasal swabs? And then we talked about the spiking the bag. And this question was the one about misinformation about COVID-19. So that's available if you'd like to look at those questions again.
Kathy, I should have called you before, but it looks like mine on the question is labeled PTINR, but the attachment is about DPI. And I didn't
Really?
see the DPI on the agenda, so I really should have said something about that before the meeting, but
Wow.
I just let it slip away from me. So I didn't know if there was one more in there that just got left off the agenda, or whether I've got something that wasn't supposed to be there.
No, I think we talked about that DPI situation at the last meeting, and that is still sort of out there
Yeah.
for some potential additional follow-up.
Does
And
anybody else have that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine
it's
is
the same.
DPI as well. Yeah.
yep, you're right. And thank you for pointing that out. That is not the right one. And I can upload the correct one. There we go. The board has a position statement on PT/INR, and so she was provided with that information, but we hadn't talked about that in a while, so I thought I would add that to the agenda for you. Yes, I just uploaded the wrong one. Okay, anybody have any questions about these communications with licensees or other people asking questions?
No, but thank you for sharing these sort of representative emails.
Well, they're always interesting, and kind of, as David was saying, you know, a lot of things the board has answered before, or it's sort of a new take on a question that's been answered before, but then other times it really, it takes some additional thought or me understanding exactly what they're trying to ask. And David and Debbie are always excellent sources of help and information for me so that we can get these questions answered in a consistent manner. So we've got like 5 minutes before Jerry Dodd joins us. So if you'd like, we can make decisions about the quarterly meetings in September and December of 2022.
Okay.
And then we'll be done except for the financials.
Okay, let's do it.
So if you'll go to your agenda, the Wednesdays and Thursdays in September 2022 have been listed there for you. And then similarly for December. So if anybody has a preference or knows that they cannot attend a certain date, please speak up.
I would suggest not doing the 7th, just because that's a short week for most of us who
Yeah,
work.
that's what I was gonna say. That's gonna be Labor Day week, so I would say probably the week after, like the 14th or the 15th would be.
Do you have a preference for Wednesday or Thursday? We've been having them on Wednesdays, and you know, we can always change that if it suits someone better. All right, why don't we pick the 14th, Wednesday, September 14th in 2022. And then December, how about December? If you'd like to have more time free towards later in the month, as we get closer to Christmas, we could.
Yeah, I
we
would
could
say
do
because
this-
the
we could do
following
7th.
week, the following week is, if you do the 14th, the following week starts the Christmas week.
So we could say this,
So-
7th or 8th that week, maybe?
Yeah.
Anybody have a preference for Wednesday or Thursday?
Nope.
All right,
Okay.
go with Wednesday.
Hmm.
Hearing none. And these are far enough out in the future that if someone discovers that they are not able to do a date, we always have a little bit of time to do some adjustment on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. I may not be a board member at that time, so.
Oh my goodness. We don't know whether that'll be true or not.
So now if you'll go back up into your agenda to the financial section, letter K.
David Knoll, are you seeing Jerry Dodd on the meeting yet?
I don't see Jerry on, but I do see Joyce.
Oh, please let Joyce in.
All righty, here she comes.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi there.
There she is. So Joyce, everyone, I wanted to introduce you to Joyce Tynes. Joyce is joining us as a part-time bookkeeper as Cindy moves into retirement. And right now, Cindy and Joyce have come to the office this week a couple of times and done some training. So that was great to see them working together as though they'd been working together forever. So Joyce, welcome. And maybe if we have a minute, we can go around and until Jerry joins the meeting, the board members can just introduce themselves so that you can see who's who.
Okay.
Tell you what, Teresa, why don't you name people and then they can say.
Okay. Let's start with Jamie Minor.
Hi, I'm Jamie Miner. I'm a PT and I'm from Raleigh.
And hi, I'm Teresa Hale, PT, Wake Forest, board chair. David?
You're on
David
mute.
Edwards. I'll defer to you, David Edwards.
All right.
David Edwards.
So my name is David Edwards. I'm a PT from Greenville, North Carolina, and I'm the secretary/treasurer.
And then Dr. Paul Garcia.
Dr. Garcia, I'm the physician member of the board from Bath, North Carolina.
And Pearl Roan.
Hi, I'm Pearl Roan from Fayetteville, North Carolina, PTA.
And Crystal.
Hi, I'm Crystal Ostland. I am one of the PTA board members, and I live down in, most people recognize Calabash, North Carolina. So.
And Leslie.
Leslie Kessler, Wilmington. I'm a PT. Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you.
And Rosa. I think you're muted, Rosa.
Yes. I'm here. And I'm Rosa Gonzalez, and I am a public member.
And then David Gadd.
Hi, Joyce, David Gadd. I'm the board attorney and I'm in Raleigh.
And I assume you've already met Paula Brooks, Debbie Reagan, and Cindy Kiley. So that's the whole crowd. Welcome. We're happy for you to join us.
Yeah.
And Kathy is on her phone. So I think we're still waiting to try to get Mr. Dodd on the call. Is there anything you wanted to say, Joyce, to the group? Joyce, you're muted.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
trying to get unmuted. You might hear the waves in the background. That's why it's muted. I'm at the beach.
Oh, we're jealous.
Nice.
Unfortunately, as soon as this is over, I head back to Raleigh. It's nice to meet everybody. I'm looking forward to working with everyone. Cindy is doing a good job of getting me acclimated and up to speed.
Well, you're learning from the best. We're just waiting for Mr. Dodd. So if you need to run to the restroom, just turn your video off and head out.
Might do that.
You might also want to go ahead and pull up your report on the financial audit. I'm sure he'll be talking about that too. This message is for our public members who are listening in on YouTube. We are taking a short break, waiting to hear from our financial auditor.
Just for anyone listening, I do see Jerry is waiting now in the waiting segment of Zoom.
Okay, good. So is Kathy letting him in or David?
I can let him in at any time. I didn't know if we were waiting
Ready
for
to go.
the queue. Awesome.
Okay, let's let him in. So for the public people joining our call, Jerry Dodd is coming in on the Zoom call.
And Teresa, if you all want me to bring that audit back up and share the screen, I can. So once Jerry gets started, just let me know.
I think that would be helpful just to make sure everybody's looking at the same data.
Great.
Kathy, I'm in now, so,
Great. We can't see you. We can hear you.
okay.
Can you turn on your video?
Give me a minute. I'll get somebody that knows what they're doing.
Hey, Jerry, this is David. I'm the systems administrator for the board. In the Zoom window, there should be a camera icon in the bottom left-hand corner. And if you click on that, that should turn your video on.
Bottom left.
Yes, sir.
I don't see the camera icon. Maybe I'm not familiar. Let me get somebody on this end. but they can't see me. See, they see the name up here. He said it was an icon down to the left. There we go.
There he is.
It only takes an expert. Thanks, David.
Hello, Jerry.
Good afternoon. Are you ready for me?
We are ready for you. And the board members, I can bring up the audit and I can scroll through it as you talk. And
Okay.
I'm going to share the screen. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
Okay. With your permission, I'll skip MD&A.
That's fine.
And I'm actually going to look at page 2.
Oh, okay. Right here. Excuse me. I got it.
Kathy, your screen's not moving.
Not again. Okay. Now, here we go.
Okay, at the top of page 2. The first paragraph is the one that's most important. It's the opinion paragraph. As you see, the heading indicates, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position, the respective changes in financial position and cash flows for the year ended June 30. The state of North Carolina mandates that we put an emphasis of matter paragraph, which basically says this is the board only report and not the state of North Carolina. There's another paragraph called required supplementary information management's discussion and analysis. Basically, this is required reporting according to the GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And basically it says we make inquiries, but we do not express specifically an opinion on MD&A. We do cross-reference the numbers in the MD&A to make sure that they are those that are in the financial statement, and we look at what's being said. And then there's a letter which we will go over that's at the end of the report in pages 17 and 18. That's being referred to on the last paragraph on page 2. If we will, we could go to page 6.
Okay, I'm there.
This is your statement of net position. We'll start at the top. You will notice that there are almost $3,050,000, more than that, about $60,000 of cash and certificates of deposit. This year is the first year that you have had Pinnacle Financial in full force, and some of your other CDs and bank accounts have been closed and moved into Pinnacle, and Pinnacle's responsibility is to find certificates of deposit that have the best rates available at the time that you're investing, and to spread the risk by placing less than $250,000 in each CD. And those CDs are principally across the country. If need be, you still have some CDs locally with North State Bank and Mechanics and Farmers. So that's the reason for the certificates of deposit, and they are specifically spreading the risk. That's part of what they do. So our total current assets are $3,074,000. Our capital assets gross cost is $294,000. And we have taken depreciation of $187,000 on those $294,000 of assets, which leaves us a net asset of $107,000. Total assets are $3,182,000. Any questions so far? Look, excuse me?
No.
Okay. Current liabilities are of two versions, accounts payable being one, and the second is the current portion of accrued vacation, which is, it may be termed paid time off. But that is the 80,000 is the current portion. And then there is a long-term portion because the accrual would have carry over to the next year beyond 12 months. So the total liabilities are $111,000. We have the $107,000 invested in capital assets, which leaves us with $2,963,000 of unrestricted net position. So our total net position, including the capital asset investment, is $3,070,000. And if you were to take the $3,070,000 and add to it the liabilities of 111, you will come up to the number equal to total assets of $3,182,000. Any questions? Okay, page 7. This is our statement of operations. Our service revenue comes from several sources, mainly renewal fees, which are $1,563,000. There are other licenses, revivals, and transfers, which total $236,000. And then you see the other amounts adding up to a total revenue of $1,923,000. Operating expenses follow. Of course, the most is salaries of $757,000, and that includes the increase in accrued paid time off. So that's not been actually paid yet, but it's part of the salaries. Payroll expense, which is FICA and Medicare, and unemployment if need be. Retirement contributions were $43,000. Legal and investigation costs, which is the attorney and all that he does for the board, plus the investigation cost when we have some complaints. Information technology costs are up this year because we were hiring contractors to do some of the software work. Group insurance includes our health coverage and other types of insurance, such as cancer insurance, that kind of thing, to the extent that the board is paying. Credit card transaction fees, $69,000. Rent for the facility, $77,486. Background check expenses, $48,000. And depreciation for the year, $53,806. That is the current year expense for assets that you have not yet fully depreciated and the assets that you purchased this year. Total operating expenses, $1,618,000, which means our operating income was $304,000. Any questions of note? Okay, we'll go to page 8. These are your non-operating revenues and or expenses. Interest income was $13,573. Loss on disposal of capital assets was $113. And the net total was $13,460. So our gross change in net position was $317,000 plus our prior net position equals the net position of $3,070,000. That number is the bottom number on page 6, the financial statement of financial position. The next statement is page 9, our statement of cash flows. There are certain categories to that presentation. Number 1 is the cash flows from operations. Number 2 is cash flows from capital and related financing activities, and then cash flows from investing activities. And then the total for the increase or decrease in cash and cash equivalents, which is basically your cash line on the balance sheet. So we received $1,912,000 from licensees and applicants. We received $11,165 from others, and we had expenses from employees and other professionals of $866,000, and cash that we paid to suppliers of services and purchases, and that totaled $675,000. So our net cash flow from operating activities is $380,000. The next category, acquisition of capital assets. We purchased $57,348 of new equipment for the IT. Next is the cash flow from investing activities. We received $13,753 of interest income, and we had an increase in certificates of deposit over the prior year. That totaled $1,714,000. So our net cash flows used in investing activities, simply because we purchased more CDs, was $1,700,000. So our change in cash was a negative $1,376,000. All that means is between the last two categories, we moved it from bank accounts to CDs. If we take last year's cash, which was $2,068,000, that was exclusive of CDs last year, we come up with the cash that's on the balance sheet on page 6, which is $691,547. Then there's a second presentation of the cash flows from operating activities. We start with operating income. We add any non-cash expenses, number 1 being depreciation and amortization, which was $53,806. We didn't have to pay out dollars for that because we purchased the asset and we're depreciating the asset. We've already incurred the cash exposure. Then it says changes in assets and liabilities. and you will see the prepaid expenses were increased. So we invested in either prepaid insurance or prepaid warranties. The decrease in other assets, the increase in accounts payable trade, and the increase in the vacation accrual or paid time off accrual. So that is the cash provided by operating activities from a different perspective, both of which are required disclosures. Any questions so far on any of it? Okay, page 10 starts the accounting policies note. And basically from year to year, there's little in the way of changes on that, and it goes all the way over to page 12. And at the bottom of page 12, you'll see note B, which discusses deposits and investments. It simply says for CDs that we have a market value of $2,376,000 at June 30, which is the number that is on the balance sheet, because any interest that has accrued is added in to those investments. And the certificates mature in various months over the next 12 months. And there are some varying interest rates as well. I think the local CDs are still at 1.5 to 1.75%, whereas other CDs are now at market, which is 0.1 to 0.2%, and you're getting 0.2%. And that's the current going rate. Continuing over to the top of page 13, there is a custodial credit risk that is required. That is the risk that should your bank fail, what is your exposure to losing dollars as a result of bank failure? The uninsured and uncollateralized deposits total $215,000 out of a total deposits of $3,067,000, which is pretty good. So not only does your staff worry about that, but also Pinnacle is an assistant in that, moving money around to keep it below 250 per bank. Any questions on that? I might also add that the credit risk is not based on what your books show your deposits are. It's based on what the bank says it had in your account if failure occurs on a specific date. So there could be outstanding checks or something like that. So it's measured that way as opposed to what's on your financial statements for cash balances. Note C, capital assets. We have the asset disclosure first on page 13, and then it continues over on page 14 at the top for depreciation. If you'll look in the additions column, you'll see that we purchased $57,348 for our IT department. And then we disposed of some other assets, namely furniture and some old equipment. So we started the year with $261,000 of assets. We added 57,000. We disposed of 24,000, and we now have 294,000 on the books. Going over to page 14 at the top. This is your analysis of depreciation. It appears in the financial statements in two places other than in the footnotes. Number one is there's an $187,265 depreciation on the face of the financial statement, statement of financial position, which is a subtraction from the cost of the assets, giving us a net asset value of $107,501. And you'll see in in the current expense column, your $53,806 of depreciation expense that's shown in the P&L statement, profit and loss statement. You can see we started the year with 157,000. We depreciated an additional 53,000, and we disposed of some assets that had depreciable basis of 23,000 that we had taken $23,000 of depreciation on, and the net of those two columns where the retirements are shown is $113 that's shown on the P&L statement on page 13 or 14, 13, I think. No, maybe it's 11. I'll get there, 9. Any questions so far on that? Okay. Our next page contains the notes for lease obligations and for net position. The disclosure shows the amount of lease obligation for the next 5 years, and then for all years thereafter, totaling $657,000. Obviously, the bulk of that is our facility. The net position is broken down between what is designated and what is undesignated. So we have designated the following: reserve for prepaid expense, information and technology reserve, replacement of property and equipment, continuing education, possible future building acquisition, unanticipated litigation costs, and they collectively total $1,992,131. The difference between designated and undesignated is the board can change the designations at its leisure by whatever vote they need. So that leaves undesignated of $971,084 and a total, if you will, undesignated of $2,963,215. Any questions on that? The next page is 16, which concludes our statement notes. The note H says we've evaluated events through the date of the audit report, specifically looking for any unrecorded liabilities, such as lawsuits or that kind of thing. We're aware of none. And then the last note is the required disclosure regarding hours spent and audit fees. Any questions on any part of that? All right. Page 17 is our report on internal control of financial reporting. Look under the paragraph internal control over financial reporting under the heading. The first paragraph basically says we do look at internal control for the purpose of determining how much and what to audit. However, we do not audit internal control specifically, and so we do not issue an opinion on the system of internal control itself. There's a definition in there of a material weakness, which is a combination of deficiencies in internal control that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statement will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. And we did not note any significant deficiencies. Again, this is required disclosure based on the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. We also look at laws and regulations on a limited basis, and we noted no non-compliances with laws and regulations. So that's basically what that letter is intended to disclose. Any questions on any of that so far? All right. There are 2 letters that are not part of the disclosure. The first one is a 3-page letter. It talks about certain topics, qualitative aspects, and it talks about accounting estimates. One of the key accounting estimates that you have is the estimated life of capital assets. A computer might be determined to last 3 years, it might be determined to last 4 years, or it might be determined to last longer. Typically, technology dictates that it's a shorter period. Obviously, any one of those choices of lives makes a difference in how much depreciation occurs in any one year. And some assets end up being fully depreciated beyond their lives, and some short of their lives, indicating when we dispose of them, there may be a loss or a gain on the asset, particularly if it's sold or if it's abandoned. We had no difficulties in performing the audit, and that's a testament to the staff. There were no uncorrected misstatements, and any and all misstatements were deemed to be immaterial. There were no disagreements with management. Management is required to give us a management representation letter. Management consultations with other independent accountants. Sometimes that occur. We are not aware that it occurred this year in this audit. And then in general, we discuss things with the staff that are routine matters. So that's essentially what that's talking about. There's another letter, if there are no questions. And it's a 1-page letter. This also is a separate disclosure required by generally accepted accounting principles and the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, specifically that it go to the board. And it talks about something similar to the 17 and 18, pages 17 and 18 of the audit report. We design our tests based on our evaluation of internal control. We didn't detect any material weaknesses. That's not to say that they couldn't exist still, but we did not discover any. And that's a testament to management's concern for proper internal controls. So I want to thank the board and thank the staff for allowing us to, again, perform the audit for you. It's always a pleasure. If we don't find an answer in the records and we ask a question, they get a quick answer back to us. So that's always good to have. Any further questions? Any comments? All righty. That concludes my report. And again,
Thank you, Mr. Dodd, for your work for us.
Beg your pardon?
And thank you for your work for us. You do a good job every year. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that. I shall sign off.
Thank you very much, Jerry. We
Okay.
appreciate you joining us today and for the speedy work this year.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware how wet it is in Durham and Raleigh, but it's a good thing that it was a Zoom meeting and not a in-person meeting, because it is pouring.
You'd be swimming over.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Jerry.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. It's been
Bye, thank you.
Jerry, I think the upper right there should be a way that you can exit, like an X or something,
Yeah.
or even at the bottom, maybe there's a leave
Very
button.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great. In follow up to Jerry's description of the report, I just wanted to say that because we're making a transition this year, Jerry was very accommodating to changing the time frame. Usually this report is due to the state October 31st, and he was very accommodating at bumping that up, a month plus. And I also want to compliment Cindy again. This preparations for this audit are not small, and she has to take an awful lot of time, does an awful lot of preparation and documentation for everything that he needs to be able to complete this audit. And as he said, whatever he needs, she gets to him. And so that's a big job. And I know she's excited that this one's done. So thank you to Cindy for that.
That's my last rodeo.
That's right. Last rodeo on this particular thing.
Yeah, that's it.
You're not done yet, though.
No,
Can you unshare your screen?
I'm sorry.
Can you unshare your screen?
Oh, I will be glad to do that. All right. Well, how is it now, Pearl? I think that was Pearl.
Share.
I'm sorry.
We're still sharing.
Oh, my. All right.
well, it's on the agenda, I believe. Yeah.
There we go. Now we're back to the people. Okay. And thank you to Joyce. Thank you for coming, Joyce. We appreciate it. Glad that everybody had a chance to meet her. And you'll be seeing her again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everybody have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Have a good one. Drive
Joyce.
safe.
So I do want to share my screen one more time, if that's all right, so we could do these two motions.
Mhm.
So if you'll give me just a minute to get that done. There we go. Can you see it, or did I share the wrong one? It should be, you should see two financial recommendations on there.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, great, good. So these are the two motions, and let me just review about the credit deposit risk. And this was the very general recommendation that Jerry suggests that the board adopt. So whoever makes the motion would move that the North Carolina Board of PT Examiners works to minimize credit deposit risk in all banking accounts by having deposited funds insured.
So moved.
Second.
Anybody have any discussion about this?
Oh, I was over here talking with a muted microphone. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I wasn't sure whether you're waiting for me or.
The motion's been made by David Edwards and seconded by Crystal that the financial recommendation to the board is as written in front of you, the credit risk policy. Is there any question to Kathy about the intent of this motion or the wording of this motion?
I don't have about that, but where does this live now? Is it just a part of the minutes of this meeting, or for some, if you ever need it for future reference, how would you know where to find it?
Leslie Kessler, I am so glad you asked this question because I have also been concerned about tracking board policies. And there is a book in the office that has various board policies over time in it. Which from time to time we have revisited because some of them have changed just because, for example, we revisited the policy on CLEP for one of the sciences. I guess we used to accept one type of thing for physics with lab because they don't have a CLEP, but we revised that statement. So periodically I bring them up. If we want to, we can have them available to the board somehow. I mean, I don't think they exist in that kind of way right now, but right now it's paper here at the office in a notebook.
I just, if it's recommended that we have a policy, then there must be some reason that it would be recommended, and you might have to reference it. So, I mean, you guys have prodigious memories and might be able to recall, back in September of 21, we talked about this, but.
No, that was Ben and John. That you're talking to me now.
So I would just, for me, I have to know where I'm,
100%. And you're very right, because that has concerned me also, because it's also, what if something happens to the person with the memory? You have to have that available to you. So we're that's another thing that we're working on, memorializing in a way that's a little bit more accessible to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Good question. Any other questions about this? Hearing none, we will take a vote on the motion before you. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. I will do a roll call. Teresa Hale, aye. David Edwards.
Aye.
Leslie Kessler.
Aye.
Crystal Osland.
Aye.
Pearl Roan.
Aye.
Jamie Miner.
Aye.
Rosa Gonzalez.
Aye.
And Dr. Paul Garcia.
Aye.
Is anyone abstaining? And are there any no votes to this motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Kathy?
The second motion involves continuing to move some monies from the unrestricted funds into the designated reserve. And I see I left out a zero. So that should be 150,000. So let's get that there.
That's a move.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Crystal, seconded by David, that the Board of Examiners directs the executive director to move 150,000 of unrestricted funds to the Information Technology Reserve designated fund. Are there any questions for Kathy about this recommendation? Hearing none, we will proceed with a vote. All those in favor, I'll do a roll call. Teresa Hale, aye. David Edwards.
Aye.
Leslie Kessler.
Yes.
Dr. Paul Garcia.
Aye.
Pearl Roan.
Aye.
Jamie Miner.
Aye.
And Crystal Osland.
Aye.
Are there any people abstaining? Are there any no votes? The motion carries in unanimous. Okay, wonderful. Executive Director, is there any other business that needs to come before this board?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nor I. As chairman of the board, I will declare this board meeting adjourned at 2:18 p.m. Thank you
Very
all for your
efficient.
participation.
Yeah,
Teresa, I hope you feel better soon.
Thank
Bye.
you, I
everybody.
appreciate it.
Bye.